Another eventful week in the turbulent life and times of petulant Prince Harry, Duke of Sussex, but not necessarily His Royal Highness, of course. After plugging his new Netflix documentary Heart of Invictus with a standard issue dollop of his own victimhood, the renegade royal discovered that it wasn't enough. Despite Harry wailing that he had no one to turn to as he suffered a mental breakdown after returning from combat in Afghanistan, the five-part series flopped. For whatever reason, viewers did not rush for their remotes, and the ratings are, so far, to say the least, disappointing. Had Harry just received the grim news when he watched Beyoncé's concert in Los Angeles with a snarling face like stone? But after Harry's solo trip to the UK this week to attend a children's charity awards ceremony, royal insiders now believe that Meghan has decided never to set foot on British soil again. Pointedly, she was scheduled to team up with her husband in Germany just days later. Dusseldorf, that was where she was off to. That's only a quick 80-minute jet journey away. Why didn't the Duchess accompany the Duke to dear old Blighty and then fly on with him? I think the reason is clear. She ain't ever coming back. In fact, she's avoiding us like the plague. She doesn't like the royal family. They don't like her. She believes millions of Brits have fallen out of love with her, and she's right. And the whole rancid fallout looks like a bitter transatlantic split with the chances of any kind of reconciliation close to zero. Royal author Andrew Morton says there's one other reason the Duchess of Netflix will avoid this great nation forevermore. If she returns to the royal fold, protocol dictates she will have to curtsy to her nemesis, Kate. As the Princess of Wales and the future Queen, Kate is way higher up the regal ladder than Meghan, and the American wannabe finds that hard to take. Like her unconfident spouse, Ms. Markle is obsessed with status. In California, she can pretend she matters. In Britain, she can pretend all she likes, but spouting new age nonsense while flogging stuff on social media won't ever amount to a hill of royal beans. She's a foreigner, married to the fifth in line to the throne. In other words, nothing much to write home about. Where was Meghan at Philip's funeral while her husband attended alone? Where was she throughout Harry's recent court drama when he spent 7 grueling hours in the witness box pursuing the latest of his numerous legal actions against the newspapers he hates? Britain is Harry's country, a country he fought bravely for in Afghanistan. This ancient land is in his blood, so we will continue to see the prince on his beloved home territory. But whether we will ever see Meghan here again is another matter. My money's on no. The self-styled Queen of California, the monarch of Montecito, has divorced Britain. It's all over between us, which begs the burning question, do we care? Answers on a postcard, please. Well, Dave, do we care?
That is a very long way of saying I don't really care about this. I think you actually love Harry and Meghan.
Oh, I do, but not for the reasons that they would like.
Yeah.
And they're a great story.
I've never heard anyone talk more about Harry and Meghan than you.
Well, that's because they're a great story.
They sell.
You know, if you do something about Harry and Meghan, people want to watch it. I mean, that.
And if you genuinely didn't like them, just stop talking about them.
No, I don't think that's
dislike
what it
them.
is.
As you quite rightly say it, my apathy about all of the royals knows no bounds, really. But certainly Harry and Meghan, I could care less. However, they are a great story. They're interesting, aren't they?
Yeah, and I don't think it's that Kevin or people like Kevin don't necessarily want to stop talking about the royals for that reason. Again, yeah, they are a great story, but also the fact of the matter is, Meghan and her marriage to Harry resulted in Harry leaving this country. That is a story in itself, and I think it's something we will continue to talk about. So, I say, I don't particularly care what Meghan gets up to. That in itself is a story.
I agree, and I do profoundly believe that she has made this decision. she's never coming back. She's never going to set foot on British soil again. As I say, the royals don't like her. She doesn't like the royals. Frankly, the royals have got lots of reasons not to like her. She's been volleying insults at them now for best part of a couple of years.
Accusing them of racism.
Yeah, accusing them of racism, all of that. And the British people don't like her anymore. So I don't think she's coming back. What do you think, Dave?
I think it's mad that we treat the royal family like they're a normal family. You know what I mean? Like, if I think this is mad. A normal family wouldn't behave.
Do you know what?
Like
I bumped into William and Kate in Tesco's the other day. There they were, in the aisle, getting all their shopping.
Because a normal family, they'd argue down the frozen pizza aisle, or they would get home and there'd be arguments about the remote. I don't think I think it's mad to me that we treat William and Harry like they are normal brothers.
I went into a pub in Gloucestershire. I walked straight in, near Highgrove. Charlie, how you doing, King? All right, get your pint. They are a very normal family, aren't they?
But I guess that's the point, right? They, because they're not a normal family, they obviously will be airing all their dirty laundry in public. I think that they should have kept a lot of these feuds private, but they didn't, and instead the entire world know everything that's going on. It's
got called him the King, right? So years ago, the Queen turned up at some function, and I was covering it for one of the newspapers, and all the photographers are there. And the royal photographers, oh, Ma'am, Your Majesty, could you look this way? So I think it was the Mail or someone had sent someone who wasn't normally a royal photographer, so he didn't quite know the etiquette, what to call her. So you shout, Ma'am, Your Majesty, so that they quickly look at you, and you get that momentary sort of eye contact. It creates a good... So this guy from the Mail's going, Queen! Queen! As if she answers to that, morning, Queen.
Surely a better technique would be to do something like fire, and then she turns like that.
Well, you could try that. You could try that. So I also saw a photographer once at the Palladium, I think it was, and he was backing away from some star. And hit the sort of theatre stairs and started reeling backwards and reeled straight back into the Queen, who nearly went over.
Oh my God. I do find royal photographers very odd. I mean, of course, the sort of family portraits are always done in very particular ways to try and present the family in particular ways. But I mean, screaming something like fire would get a pretty good shot. Imagine Meghan after a fire.
But, the point is they do project themselves as a normal family. They're sort of regarded as Britain's quintessential first family. But they're a long way from a normal family, to say the least.
A long way.
What a throwback. By the way, the Queen and Prince Philip, a couple of superstars. Charles and Camilla, I don't think so. Kind of boring old people. There's a problem there. Anyway, it's time for a bad ad. Today's advert, boldly going where no man has gone before. It stars William Shatner before he was famous. Long time ago, I guess.
Hey, right now, Loblaws is having a huge frozen food sale. You can get tremendous value on over 50 frozen food items, frozen vegetables, frozen meat entrees, frozen concentrated juices, ice cream. If it's frozen, you can save plenty. Don't get left out on the cold. Come on in and stock up that freezer. Loblaws Frozen Food Sale. Another reason why more than the price is right.
He should be saying about that. It's life, Jim, but not as we know it. I
was almost expecting a Save the Penguins ad to pop up as well.
Yeah, that was the weirdest alien that he has ever encountered, and he's encountered a few. Now it's time to take a good look at my bulging fan mail, but sack of fan mail. I get millions every week, fans appreciating all my work. So it's a section we call Mean Tweets. You're going to find out why. Here's the first one. Somebody who can't spell very well. Kevin O'Dullivan. I see. It's wordplay.
That's a
that is clever. Kevin O'Dullivan. I see what you did there. That's why you get the small bucks. Kevin O'Dullivan has taken over from Mike Graham as the biggest idiot on TalkTV. Thank you, that's a policy. All he does is shout uninformed opinions. He thinks he is the god of all media. If I could bottle his self-confidence, I would market it and eradicate child poverty. His mate Bill Gates would probably like that. Whoever sent that, you're mad. What the hell was that? the hell was that?
There you go. I mean, you are the god of all media, Kevin.
That's
I will
true.
say that's a fantastic title.
And I'm proud to have taken it over from Mike Graham as the biggest idiot on TalkTV. It's a title that I cherish. OK, usually I get a lot more mean tweets than that. I don't know what's happening. I'm losing my touch. But luckily, Reem Ibrahim gets thousands of mean tweets, so she's going to step into the breach and give us some of her fan mail. Hit it.
She's a far-right, cliché-ridden with an irritating, whiny voice. The gammons and professional sock puppets, including Mike Graham, Ian Collins and TV Kev. A truly woeful crypto-fascist outfit. What's wrong
Why
with
did
my
you send
outfits?
Reem that tweet?
Well, I was just bored, couldn't sleep.
Couldn't sleep. Criticising my outfit. I mean, you know, look yourself in the mirror first, love.
Wow, I mean, I wanted to promote myself to professional sock puppet as well. I think that is a great...
We were talking about this before the show. The crypto-fascist means pretend fascist, doesn't it?
Pretend. So I'm not a real fascist.
You're a crypto-fascist. Well, that's not as bad as being a
I was
fascist.
going to say, that's better.
compliment, yeah.
That is quite better.
You're not a real. I mean, I'm literally a libertarian, totally anti-authoritarianism. So I think that being called a fascist is interesting.
And have you got any more fascist tweets?
I did. I had a few more, particularly about this. Some of them about my age as well. We've got activist, no, rotten fascistic traitor. And we've also got one that effectively said that I am a young person still barely out of nappies. So, I mean,
Wow.
take that as
How
you
old
will.
are you again?
I've just turned 21.
Well, yeah, I concur with what they just said. I absolutely agree with that. Thank you, Reem. You've got any tweets, Dave?
I've got a couple. I mean, I've just come back from the Edinburgh Fringe. I think my best review was from an audience member who said...
The audience member.
The singular audience member who said...
So your dad turned up then?
Oh, he did? Oh, it was great. And he said something to me that I thought was brilliant. He said, you strike me like the sort of person that used to eat crayons. Which I thought was such a discarded...
What did you say? What do you mean used to? We are going to a proper break now. Welcome back to What Just Happened. I'm Kevin O'Sullivan and I am still joined by Reem Ibrahim and Dave Chawner. Let's kick off with another party political broadcast, and today's clip comes from former Vice President Sarah Palin.
Sarah Palin, a patriot who knows this land.
The rest of the country knows this part of America as the heartland.
A straight talker.
It's about day time.
And a leader who's prepared to fight.
Hopey, changey, astroturfy, DC-based businesses.
Ready for a new chapter in America.
What will they do to stop causing our pain and start feeling it again?
Sarah Palin, the candidness leads to solutions.
It leads to defeat, actually. She's from Alaska. And when asked once on a serious American political programme, you know, what do you see about the threat from Russia? And she went, I can see Russia from my house!
Oh my God.
So it's a big threat for her.
I particularly like the singing. I feel like if I did a political campaign, I probably would sing some rendition of Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star.
I'll tell you what, though, I love Sarah Palin. We should get her back, bit of colour in the rather dour American political scene, apart from, of course, the great Donald Trump, who brings colour to everywhere he goes, to say the least. Anyway, the planes don't fly, the trains don't work, the boats don't stop, the migrants just keep on coming, the NHS is a dysfunctional disaster, and the government is controlled by a bunch of left-wing civil servants who haven't been to the office in living memory. And now, drumroll, it turns out that the nation's jerry-built schools are death traps slung together with concrete's answer to the chocolate aero bar. As a result, some schools were in no fit state to open for the new term, and now kids all over the country face the grim prospect of a throwback to the lockdowns with a return to the dreaded online lessons at home. Many other public buildings were constructed with this air bubble material throughout the 1950s, 60s, 70s, all the way to the 90s. So now, broken Britain is falling down. And 5 years after it was warned of the coming catastrophe, the government finally swings into action. Why suddenly now? Just before the start of the school year. And why only now are we learning that some of these flimsy centres of state school learning are riddled with deadly asbestos? Why is everything always such a mess here in what is supposed to be one of the most advanced countries on the face of the earth. Last week, highly paid executives were assuring us that only parts of their air traffic control computers went wrong, which was a great source of comfort to the hundreds of thousands of Brits stranded at airports all over the world. As the whole system, not just parts of it, plunged into meltdown, the unluckiest passengers waited a week or more to get home. Meanwhile, the train drivers went on strike last Friday, followed by the rest of the rail staff on Saturday. In other mind-numbing news, our Prime Minister promises us 100% he will stop the boats and hands French President Monsieur Macron £500 million to patrol his own beaches and stem the tide of migrants crossing the channel in illegal small boats and dinghies. Ever since that financial entente cordiale, the number has been rising at high pace, peaking with last Saturday's record for the year, 872 in a single day. Meanwhile, the Bibi Stockholm barge lies empty, a rusting symbol of a government adrift that is failing to solve this escalating crisis on an epic level. Crime rates soar. Police don't appear willing to investigate anything unless it's nasty, hatey words on Twitter. And safe in the knowledge that cops don't really bother to catch crooks anymore, thieves rob, steal and burgle with impunity. Our supine Tory cabinet sits and watches while woke warriors attack every aspect of traditional British life and do nothing to prevent the NHS collapsing into an abyss of right-on nonsense that cares more about pronouns than patients. These pusillanimous politicians let teachers brainwash kids with fashionable but entirely unscientific theories of how white privilege and toxic racism are the root of all educational evil. Total tosh, but Cameron, May, Johnson and Sunak have allowed the rise of this risible rubbish. Just like they all pray to the mighty god of green, kowtowing to Just Stop Oil and the crazy eco gang, somehow deluding themselves that what long-suffering Brits really want is much bigger energy bills, cycle lane traffic chaos, no foreign holidays and prohibitive charges for driving their own cars. Memo to Rishi and his secret socialist conservative cohorts. This virtue signalling claptrap that will make us all poorer and colder is not a vote winner. Why don't you know that? Not so Great Britain is turning into a 24/7, all year round omnishambles. We no longer even expect anything to work. We used to expect first world efficiency and moaned when we ended up with third world inefficiency. It's the other way round now. We expect third world hopelessness and pretty much always get it. Sick Britain has become a basket case in urgent need of a cure. Emergency, dial 999, call for the NHS. The ambulance will arrive in 4 hours. So that was specifically for you, Dave. I thought it would annoy you a lot.
I know, I agree. I think it's a shame.
That's it.
I don't know what I
put all that effort in.
I don't know.
It's a shame.
I'm not going to lie. I just was amazed by the word pusillanimous. I've never heard that word in the wild before.
It is a fantastic one. I mean,
Right.
look, Kevin, you're absolutely right. Britain is in decline. We've got the highest tax burden since the Second World War. We don't build enough homes. We've got NHS waiting lists above 7 million on record levels, and yet we're spending a record numbers of taxpayer money onto the failing, broken NHS. I really do think that we need to look at Britain as its entirety and think about why Britain is in decline, why the government have been choking growth, why people don't want to invest in this country anymore. I can't bear to see Britain in decline, and yet the government seemed entirely hopeless in doing anything about it.
Yeah, the whole place.
You haven't known anything different. You're only 21. It's always been rubbish.
You're only 8.
You're straight out of nappy. You didn't know anything. Well, look, I mean, for young people, we don't build enough homes, which mean that effectively young people don't want to
So
live
you won't
in
be
this
able to buy a
country.
house.
You won't be able to buy
Tough
a house.
luck. That's the way it goes.
You've got your house, Kevin. I don't.
Life's
and
crap
it's
when you
sad.
die. That's the way it goes.
But then how are we going to pay for your pensions, Kevin? How are we going to pay for older people
worry about
to live
that.
in this country without working people paying taxes?
I've got my business interests. I'm exploiting slave labour abroad, so I'm doing very nicely. Thank you very much. But seriously, Dave, this crumbling concrete crisis, the aerobar school constructions, I mean, it's just as if everything wasn't bad enough. As I said, nothing works. Trains don't work. Planes don't fly. Everything is a complete mess. The NHS is a dysfunctional disaster, and now the schools are falling down. I mean, come on.
If you want my genuine answer to that, it's twofold. One is, I don't want to make this any worse, but I think this is the start, not the end, because, what about domestic buildings? What about high-rise blocks? What about other buildings that could have been built?
No, you're absolutely... I think I alluded to that in my monologue, that it's not just schools, hospitals, various public buildings were made with this ludicrous material. So I've been saying all day, if you think the government's bad now, at least you can take some solace that back in the 1950s, somebody said, well, we're going to build the schools from now on. Oh, I've got this kind of aero bar thing, it'll fall down in about 5 years. Ideal, let's do it. So they were probably worse in the past.
Just shows how incompetent the government really is at doing literally anything. And I think this is, particularly symbolic. I mean, the entire crisis behind the concrete school crisis, I think it's symbolic of Britain as a whole. Britain itself is crumbling, and the government are doing nothing to pick up the pieces.
And Gillian Keegan, of course, the Education Secretary, went onto TV and was caught off mic, as it were, or on mic, off camera, saying, why doesn't everyone say what a good job I'm doing? I'll tell you why, Gillian, because you're not doing a fucking good job. You're doing a terrible job, like every other education secretary. 7 education secretaries in the last 5 years. And how can any of them do a proper job?
It's almost like 13 years of having the Tories in power isn't working anymore.
But I think we've got to be careful. I mean, the Tories deserve all the odium we can pour on them. They are an absolute disaster right now. But nobody should con themselves to say, well, when we get Keir Starmer in, it's all going to be great, because it ain't.
Absolutely, and this is the problem, right? Specifically thinking about the NHS. You've got Wes Streeting, who's a Shadow Health Secretary, saying that he's going to do all of those things.
Saint Wes, you mean?
Well, indeed. And they're saying that they're going to reform the NHS. Absolutely no chance will
Nobody
the likes
will
of
ever do
Momentum or the Corbynistas allow them to reduce the tax burden. Or, let's make no mistake about it, the Labour Party will not reduce taxes. The Labour Party will not reform the NHS because they've got Momentum and the Corbynistas that are telling them they can't.
This has been a party political broadcast on behalf of the Reem Ibrahim Party. Now, let's move on to our next very bad ad.
A round of golf will wake you up, they say. But it's Kellogg's Fruit and Fibre wins the day.
Crunchy whole wheat flakes and fruit are just the thing.
So it's quite the most important thing to bring. Apples, hazelnuts, bananas.
Raisins, coconuts, sultanas.
Now my breakfast really going with a swing.
Well, unless I missed my guess, Dave, that was Joan Collins next to him, wasn't it?
I like that music.
Oh, you like that, do
Yeah,
you?
it's fun, it's upbeat. I like it.
Well, no wonder Ross went on to fame and fortune after such an amazing advert to launch his stellar career.
That's probably why he's got always this tough man hard visage, because he doesn't want to say too much. He'd be like, wait, were you the guy on the fruit and nut ad?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. I wonder if
He's
he ever gets
embarrassed.
remembered for that.
He's probably
I
quite
hope
embarrassed
so.
by it.
I want to know how much he got paid for that, because I don't think there's money enough in the
They
world
should have
for
had
that.
the dove, shouldn't they? Just try this, fruit and nut. End of EastEnders. Listen, great show. Thank you so much to Dave. He's off to do another of his empty auditorium shows. And always a pleasure to see Reem Ibrahim. So, great show. Thank you very much. That's all we've got time for tonight. I'll be back next week with another sparkling edition of What Just Happened?